Hi everyone, it's Allison back with another Arty party. Today we're gonna do needle felting. Now, needle felting is a really fun, simple process, so it can be done by artists of all ages, but our younger artists really should have adult supervision because we're using sharp objects. Also, these felting needles are kind of like tiny bayonets. They're triangles, so they really hurt when you poke yourself, and you're gonna poke yourself at least once. You can see I've already done so today. And it really hurts, and you know, you might bleed a little, so maybe have the bandages on hand. Just be aware of where you're sticking this thing, and younger artists should have some adult supervision, but otherwise it's really easy and lots of fun, so anyone can join in. Today we are going to be making a little 3D pumpkin. Now you can make this, I made a teeny weeny one. You can make this any size. What you're gonna need is, and you can also use any colors. I of course used real life colors, but you can, you know, if you want to make purple pumpkins with orange leaves, knock yourself out. Whatever floats your boat. That's going to be super fun. But what you're going to need is a main color. I'm using orange. And you're going to need about twice as, you need to pull off about, now, roving comes in pretty big packages. It looks like it's tiny, but then you open it up and it's just like, so much roving in the package. It's kind of amazing. It's like there's a pocket dimension in there. But you're going to want to pull off about twice as much, a chunk twice as big as you want your pumpkin to be, whatever size that is. And then if you want a stem and a leaf, you're going to want something for your stem. I'm using tan and a little bit of brown. We'll mix those colors later. And then I've got a couple colors of green for my leaf. Like I said, you're going to want to pull off about, oh, and you're also going to need felting needles. Just your random, your general, US size 38 is kind of a general size of a tri-point. How this needle works, let me see if I can get it real close to my camera here. Let's see if it'll still focus. Will you focus? Focus. Focus. Okay, you can kind of see. So there's 3 sides to this needle, and you can kind of see there's tiny little notches in it. So what those do is when we are poking from through the wool, it's grabbing little fibers and stitching them kind of like a sewing machine or Velcro. It's pushing them from one layer to the other to kind of mash everything together. The other technique for felting is called wet felting, and you do the same thing but with water instead of needles. But that's a different process than what we're doing today. It's a little more involved. There's soap and a lot of mess. It's really cool. That's how you get felted hats and felted boots and things like that. But we're going to do the needle felting version today because it's a little bit less mess. Just like I said, be aware. Poking yourself is not the greatest. You're going to do it. I will probably do it while we're doing this project. Oh, and you're also going to need a safety pad. Now, if you've bought some felting needles, you should have had the option to also get a high density foam pad or a special wool pad that won't stick to your roving. If you didn't get those things, or you don't really want to buy one, leftover upholstery foam works really well. It doesn't really matter which color it is, green, white, black, doesn't matter. If you've got some high density foam from like a special package, those work too. Just make sure it's at least an inch thick. 2 inches is better. 3 inches is excessive, it just kind of squishes. But just make sure you have something. This will give you, we are going to be working a lot while holding the wool today, but you do want something to squish into for your safety pad. So those are all the things you're going to need. You're going to need some roving, you're going to need a safety pad, you're going to need a needle. That's really it. By the way, another safety tip. Keep the roving away from pets. They think it's amazing, especially cats. They think it's a mouse. They should not eat it. You will have a You will be risking a trip to the vet. We don't want that. But anyway, so to get started, so let me think. Do I want to make a round pumpkin, a tall pumpkin, or a squat pumpkin? I think I'm going to make a kind of tall, skinny pumpkin to go with my nice squat friend here. So I'm going to rip off, I'm going to kind of roll this up. Now, my trick here is to let the top and bottom of this roll, no matter what your size you're making, if you're going to make it a squat pumpkin, if you're going to do a tall pumpkin, a round pumpkin, we want to kind of roll up a little ball here. And the top and bottom of this are going to be the top and bottom of our pumpkin, just to kind of hide the place where there's not as much fiber because you've got that spiral going. So I'm going to make, let's see, this is going to squish down a bit. So I'm going to pull off about this much. And this will probably end up with a pumpkin. This is probably about twice the size my pumpkin's going to be. Now you want to roll this up. I think I don't want it quite that tall. So I'm going to, let me stick my little friend over here. I'm going to kind of roll this up real gently. Now your wool is going to compact a lot, so you want to make sure you've got enough. Alright, so this should be a nice cute tall pumpkin to go with my big fat pumpkin. Now you can see what I mean about the spiral at the top and the bottom. I'm going to kind of flare out. Now there's lots of different kinds of roving. You might have one with longer, smoother hair. That's called staple. Or you might have this really floofy stuff, depending on what kind you got. Both work equally well. The longer staple works better for like things where you have majestic fur. I find this stuff work with the shorter staple works better for the 3D things. So I'm going to floof out the end a little bit so that I can, I'm going to tuck more of the floofy part into the middle of my pumpkin. And I'm going to kind of get this. You kind of want to take that raw edge and pull that, well, first things first. Let's make it so this stops unrolling. Here comes the magic. You're going to take your, again, watch where your fingers are, make yourself a gap. You're going to take your felting needle and you're just kind of going to poke it through this trailing end into the belly of your roving. You're just kind of making some, you know, if this was sewing, we would call it tacking stitches. And you can actually see, because this is the nice raw edge, it just kind of disappears. You can't see where the seam is, as it were. Just kind of gently poke. Again, don't stab yourself in the hand. That part's no fun. But so now we've got kind of a nice little guy going on. And it looks like I've actually got so much right here. I'm going to, this is where roving gets really fun. You can just rip it. You just pull and the fibers pull apart and life is good. I'm actually going to pull these off. This is a slightly different technique than you would use if you were making a squat pumpkin. And that's the fun of it. So I'm actually going to pull that off, and while this still looks like a sleeping bag, I'm going to stuff some more of this in the very middle so that my tall pumpkins can still be pudgy. Because let's face it, who doesn't love a pudgy pumpkin? Alright, so I'm going to squish that in there. I'm going to make sure that your raw end's still, your raw edge of your top is still sticking out. I'm going to stick some more in there. There we go. A little pudgier in the middle now. Yeah, like I said, it kind of looks like somewhere between a marshmallow and a burrito. So, now that we've got that, I'm going to kind of tuck all this in. And we've got what's left of our raw edge. You want to have a good section of raw edge. I'm going to put my little burrito on top of my safety pad. And I'm going to, this way if I poke all the way through, I'm not poking my hand. And you're just going to kind of gently stab. This is why I love needle felting. It is very relaxing. But you're stabbing something. It's a little bit therapeutic, especially if you're stressed out. If you're angry at something, you can just be like, stab, 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 stab. It also makes a very nice crunching noise. I don't know how else to describe it, and I don't know how well you can hear it. Sounds like you can, it looks like you can hear it a little bit on the video, but all right, so we've got, see, now it's a little bit stuck. It's got a little bit of, little push together. We want to kind of squish this end in two. Do a little more squishing, a little more stabbing to make it all stick together. Like I said, this is grabbing fibers from the upper layers and shoving them through the bottom layers, kind of like stitching. All right, so now we're going to take this raw edge and I'm going to take all of that and we're going to cover up the folded parts as best we can because the raw edge will help those just disappear. Now you can actually take the tip of your needle and use it to gently pull and grab loose fibers and like spread them out over the top of your pumpkin burrito here to disguise the areas where things have been stitched together. Oh, got a little fold over here. Definitely want to hide that. So I'm gonna pull some fibers from other areas and squish that in. All right, so we've sealed up one end. Now you can see this seam, this side seam of my burrito is a little loose still. Definitely gonna get it more. And you can just gently tap, 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 tap. Kind of pushing in right there though. So I am going to drag some more fibers and kind of disguise that a bit. Now there is, oh, see this is the thing that happens sometimes with roving, because it's just raw wool, comes off the sheet, gets combed and dyed and stuffed in the dye vat, and combed and stuffed in the dye vat and then given to us. So sometimes you will find little bits of leaf or twig in your roving from its life out in the wild on our sheep friend. That's normal, that's okay, just pick them out. Totally normal. So every time I do a stab, you know how it's stitching the layers together? It's also compacting it a little bit. All right, we want to go along this burrito line a little more. Kind of seal that up. So if you were doing a squat or a round pumpkin, this would just be a shorter distance, but we're still basically at this point making a marshmallow. It just depends on where all your squatness is. By the way, these make really great pin cushions when you're done, or really great decorations. They should not be used as pet toys or kid toys. Unfortunately, roving can be very easily pulled apart, and like I said, it can be a choking or digestive hazard. So just be careful with the smaller folks in your life, both four-legged and two-legged. All right, so we've got the other end of our burrito now, and we want to fold that up like we did the other end. Again, keep your raw edge, that nice floofy torn edge. We want to keep as much of that available as possible because we like that part. It'll help disguise everything. All right, so we're going to fold that in, fold this part in. just realized my hand is in the way. I tried to position the camera so that my hand would be out of the way as much as possible, but always have to adjust. All right, squish this part in, making our marshmallow burrito here. Getting a little bit of a dent over here, so I want to make sure that I'm kind of squishing everything. Now we'll sort this all out as we go. I actually think before I seal this up entirely, I'm gonna stuff a little more fluff inside my pumpkin. Now you can do it this way, or you can just squish, I mean it is just fluff, you can just squish your pumpkin into shape. We're going to do a little bit of that in a moment, because a fun thing that helps compact your wool is actually heat and moisture. So we're going to roll our pumpkin in just a minute, but first we're going to get it all into one big ball shape. Alright, so I added a little more in the middle there. Now we're going to seal this burrito up. Oops. One of my needles desperately needs to be replaced, and I think all the grabby is out of it. I need to order some more. All right, got that. So now we're going to take the raw edge. Oh, need to tuck this part first. Now we're going to take that nice raw edge. We're going to spread it out. Blend it in as much as we can. Cover up as much of the end of our pumpkin burrito. Marshmallow pumpkin burrito. That just sounds funny. It just sounds really weird. But that is the only way I can think to describe this unusual shape we have made, since I wanted to make a tall pumpkin this time. The process for making other shapes of pumpkins. Oh, I just realized I'm shaking the camera by stabbing too hard. The process for making other shapes of pumpkins is pretty much the same. Just on this next step, you'll kind of refine what shape you want it to be. I'm actually gonna give myself a little more raw edge there. You can see I took the end of my needle and just ripped some fibers to give myself a fuzzy edge. So I can kind of hide this fold we got here. Rip, rip, rip. There we go. You should be able to find a lot of these things at your local craft store. If not, there are some great places online to order. I mean, you can get it through Amazon, but there are neat places like Weir Crafts that specifically sell fiber art stuff. And then you're helping small businesses. They also support small local wool farms, so that's pretty cool. One of their lines of wool is from, I want to say, Pennsylvania, and another line of wool is a small group from New Zealand. All right, so instead of a squatty pumpkin, we're going to have a tall pumpkin this time. Now, like I said, this actually does really well if you roll it. Not too hard, we don't want it to rip apart. But if you get a little heat, a little moisture, it's going to help compact. Literally roll in this like you would some Play-Doh or some cookie dough. It's going to help squish and compact that lovely roving. Okay, so we've got our basic pumpkin shape. I know it looks super weird right now, but now we get down to poking. So now we just want to still, that's the one, I need to put that one out of reach. That's the one that has no grip anymore. It's no pokeability. So now we are just going to roll this thing around and give it good pokes with our felting needle. to compact the whole thing together. This is the part where you really want to watch where you're sticking your fingers, because if you hold it in your hand like this and you just start jabbing, you're gonna jab all the way through and get yourself. It's not that bad, but it doesn't feel great. I really, 0 of 10, do not recommend. So you are just going to stab at random. There's literally no rhyme or reason to this part. You don't have to be careful to do it in any kind of order. It's one of the reasons I picked this project. Pumpkins are just pudgy little round gourd things. It's okay if they're a little weird and a little lumpy. They're a great first project. A little later, I do also have another day. We will do a penguin who also starts out with a marshmallow shape. And it's a lot of fun. But this one's a good one to practice on first. So we're just gonna stab our pumpkin. I'm just kind of squishing it down and stabbing as I go. You can see it's compacting already. It's already so much smaller than it was when we started. And we're just gonna keep doing this. Now there is a tool, there are several tools actually that have multiple needles. Some look like a pen, and they have 3 needles grouped really close together. And some are spaced out, and they have 5 needles in like a dice pattern spread out over about ½ an inch. Those are really useful when you're doing big projects or to make parts like this go along faster. I call it a murder stick. It's spring-loaded so that you can't hurt yourself unless you're not careful. It's got a guard and everything. But it makes, because you're jamming 5 needles in it instead of 1, or 3 needles in instead of 1, it just makes this part go a lot faster. But there's no harm in just doing it with 1 needle. Now this part does take a little while. It's okay. Just zone out with some music. Let's say, how are we feeling? Now you're gonna feel it getting denser and denser. You'll also feel like I feel a spot right here that needs a little love. So I am going to do that. In the interest of not making this video last a million years, I am going to cut out a chunk right here. I'm just gonna cut out a few minutes, and I will pop back to the next step when I have gotten this to the consistency and solidity that I would like it. So I'll see y'all in a few minutes. Okay, I am back. You can see that I actually went and got my AKA murder stick because I was getting impatient with how long it was taking to compact my little, kind of looks like a potato right now, doesn't it? Little orange potato. My pumpkin. But you can see now it is, if I poke it, it is a lot denser. Like it is like one of those wool dryer balls that you throw into instead of a dryer sheet. It's a lot denser. So what I've done is I rolled it around. I've gone at all different angles. You can hear the spring in this. It makes me happy. Boing, boing, boing. So I've just made sure to poke through at all different angles. You want to make sure to stab down. You want to make sure to stab at angles. Again, this is why we use a safety pad. So you just kind of want to stab through every which way. That gives, basically it has stitches in every direction now, and just a lot more stability and structure. So now that I've got my little orange potato pumpkin here, we're going to, I'm going to roll it into the shape that I want it to be. Remember we were rolling earlier? Well, now you can kind of use that to see what final shape you want your pumpkin to be. This is, if you were making a round one, if I wanted to make this a very squat pumpkin, I would be squishing at this point. I also wouldn't have made it so tall in the first place. But I want to have a tall pumpkin to go with my short pumpkin. So I'm going to kind of make it a little narrower up at the top. And I think I'm going to, so I'm going to take this tool. If I pull this back, you can see it has 5 needles kind of all spaced pretty close together. But this is so I don't poke myself. Only the felt. We don't want to poke people. That's no fun at all. Do want to be careful with this one not to smash it directly into your pad if your pad is only an inch thick, because if you smash it in too hard, you can hit the table and break off the tips of the needles, and that is something you don't want to do. That's definitely something you don't want to do with your regular needles either, so just be careful. So I'm going to make a little skinnier up here at the top, and I'm going to try and make it a little, you can see I'm kind of just gently holding the sides of my pumpkin so I don't poke myself. Gently kind of make wider bottom. Oh yeah, that's coming along nicely. Right, so now we're going to do some shaping on our pumpkin. We're going to, this is going to be my top. So I want to make a spot right up here at the top where we are going to end up putting our stem, kind of just marking the place right now. Because we're going to make our lovely little grooves in our pumpkin. Get that out of my way. And then on the bottom of your pumpkin, you kind of want to flip it over and do the same thing. You got to put that bottom button where it sits on the ground. Got a little belly button on the bottom always. It's always funny that there's a belly button on the end that doesn't have the vine. But then you've got the cute stem on the vine. And okay, so now we've got a little spot at each one, and we are going to make our grooves. So I'm going to start with the top just so I don't forget which end is which. And if you're, mine's acting like a little potato right now, and that's okay. Like I said, this is why we're doing pumpkins. They can be a little lumpy, and that's okay. But that's also going to get a little straightened out while we do our grooves. So now, I want you to start at the top where your stem is going to go, and you're going to go along at an angle and do this. You can go straight down, but it won't make the groove happen as fast. So kind of go at an angle, and I want you to draw, stabbing, I want you to make a straight line down the side of your pumpkin, and you're just kind of sliding along and making a bunch of little stabs. I want you to go straight down the side of your pumpkin, or as straight as you can manage. It's okay if it's wiggly, it's a gourd. We're going to go straight down the side of our pumpkin. 2. This is why we marked both ends. We're going to go straight to the bottom belly button. Then we're going to keep going, because we're going to do, there's always an even number of these grooves, so we're just going to go straight around. Try to keep it straight. 2. Don't worry, we're going to do this more than once to get that groove nice and even. So if I did this right, that, oh hey, that's pretty good, like half and half, kind of looks like a hot dog right now. It's an orange hot dog. What have I done? It's a mutant, it's alive. Alright, so we've gone all the way around and done that once. So now, again, in the interest of time, I am gonna do a little art break. But I am gonna go and I'm gonna do another set of grooves going around this way, a set this way, and a set this way. So we're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 4 going all the way around our pumpkin, which should give us 8 little lobes in our fun gourd. So I'm gonna do that and I will check back in with y'all in just a minute. Okay, so I have gotten all those lobes into my pumpkin and I've squished them in every which way to try and define those lines as much as possible. You can keep doing this for a long time and you can make the lines on your pumpkin as defined or undefined as you want. You know, some pumpkins are like almost smooth and some pumpkins are really bumpy. You can also go and make lumps and bumps and weird shapes on your pumpkin if you want to. And while you're working, you can squish your pumpkin and make it the shape that you want. So I've been squishing in at the top of my pumpkin and squishing here on the bottom of my pumpkin so that now my pumpkin kind of has more of a, you know, bottom heavy but tall gourd shape. It's a little shaped like a bell pepper at the moment, but upside down. So I'm pretty happy with how my little friend is looking here. So now it is time to give it a stem and a belly button and a leaf. So one of the fun things about about using wool roving is it's kind of like paint in that you can take a couple different colors and then rip them to mix the fibers and end up with a color between those colors. Plus, then it doesn't feel like it's all exactly the same shade. It's kind of like having highlights in your hair. You get a little dimension to it. Oh, like I said, you're gonna find funny little things in your roving sometimes. Sometimes it's just a funny little knot of wool. Sometimes it is just a piece of leaf or stick. It's just weird stuff. Okay, so I have pulled some dark brown and some tan, like some khaki camel colored brown, all together so that now we have a little bit of dead vine color for our pumpkin. And I'm going to take this and I'm going to roll it up. Now, this is probably this is way too much roving. I'm going to rip this in half. I don't need all of that or my stem will be enormous. So, I'm going to go this way. I'm going to fold it. So this is going to be, again, I'm going to roll it between my fingers. This is my stem. This will be the top of my stem. This raw part is where we're going to get it to stick to our pumpkin. So this still might be a little much, but that's okay. Kind of roll it a little bit, roll it between our fingers, just to get it to stick together a smidge. Now we are gonna put it on our pad, get a few good sticks. Now it's kind of all one piece in the right direction. We can roll it a little better. Like I said, a little moisture or heat helps it out. So we're gonna stab some more. Kind of want to get the end of that vine flattened out a little bit without stabbing yourself. This is where things get a little weird. So you're just going to kind of rotate this and stab it from every side, just like we did with the pumpkin. This is where multi-needle tool often comes in handy. So you're going to want to spread out this part that has the raw edges so we can use that in a minute. And then we can stab. You can kind of see how it's looking like a stem now, so that now, again, keep your fingers clear. This is easier with a bigger stem, but this is what fingernails are for, right? And gently stab from the top. This will get our fibers going another way and give it a little more structure. Give it a flat top to that stem. Make it a little more stem-like. See? Now it's looking a lot like a stem, and we can compress it some more with our fingers. Squish, squish. It's actually looking pretty good. This is where one of those multi-needle tools will come in handy. Gonna roll it over and stab it a few more times. Now, if you want to make like a long curly stem, like there's a lot of vine left, you can totally do that. I think I actually might leave a long stem on this one, because that's more fun. Plus I've got like a lot to work with this time, so I can have a nice long stem. Right, so we're going to fluff the bottom out again. And make sure that my stem is pretty solid. Give it a few long ways pokes just to make sure it is well constructed. So here's my stem. Looks a little funny, but that's okay because we're going to poke it a lot more. You want to take this part, you want to take those raw edges and you can fold those into the middle. It's going to look kind of like a weird mushroom. This is going to be that cap part where the stem attaches. So you're going to go around your stem this time to kind of settle those in. It's that part where the vine attaches to the top of your pumpkin. You can see this is way too big for my pumpkin at the moment, but we're going to make it the right size. All right, so I've got my very rough stem. Oh, it's so big. I better roll this up a little more, make this a little more. And I'm actually going to pull off some of this because it's really a lot. That's really too much for this pumpkin. But I'm going to fold those ends back in like I did a minute ago. I'm going to pop this on top of my pumpkin. Oh, that's much better. Stick my pumpkin on my... So I put that on top of the space where all the lobes meet at the top of my pumpkin, and I'm just making sure to tuck those raw ends under, and I am just kind of stabbing around that weird mushroom thing at the bottom. If you put the raw ends under, that means you won't end up with any fluffy parts. And you just want to make sure that you're getting your lots of threads stitched through. You want to make sure your stem is really, really attached to the body of your pumpkin. You can use the tip of your needle to push the rough edges of that mushroom part under, and then stab through some more. Remember, like before, we want to stab some through at an angle, some straight through. You want to make sure this guy's on there really good. So you want to keep going around. Get all of the sides, give lots of love to all of the sides of your pumpkin stem. Ooh, got a little straggler there. Just want to tuck that in. So my pumpkin stem is actually like off to one side now. That's okay, that happens with pumpkins all the time. So we're gonna work with that. You can see it's on there, but it's still kind of loose. So I am going to stab this a bit more. Again, this is one of those times when you definitely want to make sure that you are not stabbing it yourself. I'm going to get this a little more centered. Here we go. So you don't just want to do the very edge of it, you want to come in, you want to come from the edge of the brown in towards the stem while you're stabbing to get it really stuck on there. Heck, you can go down through, like you can bend the stem over and go through this way. That will make sure that it is stuck on there really good. All of these things will help make sure that your stem can't escape. Tug on it and it pops off. You haven't done it enough yet. You'll know. So now I've got my stem on here. Feels like it's attached pretty well. But the top part of my stem is really fluffy, and the bottom part of my stem is very solidified and dense from being compressed by the felting. So I'm going to want to give my sorry, I forgot to put my phone on quiet. I'm going to want to give my stem a little more stabby love. Now it's looking a little more like it belongs all together. And I can come back a little later and make sure that that gets to be a very well compacted stem that looks like it's the right size. And oh, that actually helped a lot, stabbing down from the top. But I can just keep rolling it around until it is the size and shape that I want it to be for this particular little pumpkin. Obviously, your pumpkin may be different. Like this one I had made like a really short, squat, stubby bit of vine. So I'm just going to keep going around until I like the way that looks. But that's not my number one priority right now. Got that top stem on. It's not going anywhere. And a nice thing with felting is you don't have to get it all right the first time you're working on it. If you get something mostly made and you want to set it down and come back to it in an hour, that usually helps to bring fresh eyes and go, oh yeah, I'd like to do this, and then it will look the way I want it to look. And if you don't like something, you can usually stick your needle in and rip something out, or you can get a pair of very small scissors with very pointy tips and snip it off. There's fiber arts and soft sculpture are very forgiving. All right, so we've got a fun little stem there. I'm probably going to make that a little funkier. It really does look like an orange bell pepper, doesn't it? So we're going to give it a little spot on its bottom for that weird belly button that pumpkins have. You literally can just take some left over from your stem and just roll it into a ball. Just roll it between your fingers like it's clay or cookie dough, and you're just going to make a little ball. That's about the same width as your stem. Maybe a little bigger, maybe a little smaller. It could be huge if you want. Then you're just going to do what we did with the stem. I'm going to make sure to stab through here a lot. Definitely stab a lot in the middle, because this is the part that gives the bottom of pumpkins their, the belly button on the bottom gives them their flat sit on the table shape. So definitely stab through the middle a lot. Now, if you've made a small ball, it is possible to accidentally push all of the fiber through the middle of itself and it disappear into the orange part of the pumpkin. So just keep an eye on how much belly button you have left on the surface when you're attaching it. So we've got our little bottom belly button, our bottom button, our butt button. What do we want to call that? It's a pumpkin button. All right, so we've got that on the bottom of our pumpkin. That definitely helped push in the bottom so that it stands up on the table really nicely. And now we're gonna make a little leaf for our pumpkin. So again, I got some light green and some dark green. I probably have way too much roving here. Let's pull some of that off. And again, I'm going to pull these just to mix them up so that I've got like a medium green, and so all the fibers aren't the same color. And now I'm going to fold these in half. That'll give me the blunt end of my leaf, and then I'm going to kind of roll this end. Oh wow, that's like twice as much as I need. Fortunately, pumpkin leaves are pretty huge, so actually that's probably about right. So I'm going to kind of twist it. So now I've got kind of a leaf shape, and I am, actually, you know what I'm going to do? Pumpkin leaves are pretty big, but we also want a little more solidity. So I'm actually going to twist this part and flip it back down. I could have gotten that back open, I would have folded it to the inside. So now we've got a teardrop shape. You can kind of see right there. And we're just going to gently stab. This is one of those times where you want to make sure that you're not stabbing all the way through to the table, or at least don't do it too hard because your needle might break and that's no fun. This is also one of those times when you have a multi-needle tool. It's definitely going to come in handy right about now, so you can just get that really felted all at once. These are great if you are doing flat tapestry pieces in an embroidery hoop. All right, so we've got that kind of. Now when you're doing something flat like this, you're going to end up with a bunch of fuzzies on one side from the fibers being pushed through from one side to the other. So you probably want to flip it a few times to kind of just get that all over felted thing going on. Now since this is a leaf, I'm going to, actually we ended up with this end being really solid and this end being less so, so I'm going to make this the pointy end. Makes more sense, right? I want to make this the pointy end of the leaf. Give this a few, kind of make a nice solid edge here. And you can horse around and do a little experimenting. See which techniques work best for you to make the shapes that you want to make. I'm just rolling things around because those and tucking edges like this, these techniques work for me for making the shapes that I want to make. But you may find that something else works better for you. It's got kind of a, now pumpkin leaves are a slightly different shape than this. They've got, if I remember correctly, they've got a little point that comes out here. Chunk that goes there. But you can just leave it teardrop shaped if you want to. Pull out a little piece here. And make a little part there. And we'll make this part pointy again. That looks a lot like a pumpkin leaf. They're a little wider than that, but I should have looked it up. Never be afraid to use reference, my friends. Looking things up is what all artists do. But that looks pretty close to a pumpkin leaf. Oh yeah, there we go. That's what it needed. It needed a little tuck at the back there. So now, remember how we made that those dents in our pumpkin? I'm gonna kind of go along the middle of my leaf, right down the middle, where that big vein goes, where it has a stick that attaches it to the vine of the pumpkin. So now we've got a little pumpkin leaf. It's a little funny looking, so I'm gonna pinch it and pull on some pieces until it looks the way I want it to. I might need to put it back down and give it a few more pokes. I might need to get a little, if you want to make it really solid, you might want to get a little more green roving and do like another layer on the back just so it's nice and thick. I feel like this one's doing pretty good. It just needs a little reinforcement and mostly needs to be made pointy again. Kind of got absorbed. There we go. So now I've got this cute little pumpkin leaf right here, and I am going to put it right here on my pumpkin. And again, you're just going to poke through, give it a good stabby. Now with your leaf, obviously you don't want to glue the whole thing down. That'll look super fake. But you do want to attach a little bit of it, and you can get that nice main vein thing going on, and then also attach this part that goes near the stem. Give that a few stabs. Now you'll notice that the more you stab in an area, the farther it sinks in. You can use that to your advantage. See how cute the leaf is sticking up now? I've really attached it really good up close to the stem. And then if I go along where that central vein should be, just a little bit, about halfway down the leaf, maybe a third down the leaf, it's kind of folding the leaf in half and making it pop up. So you get this really cute little 3D leaf that is stuck to your pumpkin. Now if you wanted to, you could take some more green or some more brown and make some curly cues. You could even have done a curly cue for your stem if you wanted a curly cue pumpkin. I do have some little bits dangling off of my pumpkin leaf. So I am going to grab some very small scissors and trim that off when I'm done. But overall, my little pumpkin is looking very cute. It'll be a good friend to the little squat pumpkin. They can sit next to each other. Little squat pumpkin has just a little teardrop leaf. I wasn't paying attention to what pumpkin leaves should look like. And then I remembered, oh yeah, they're funny looking. So you can make these in any shape, size. If you want to make them bigger, get one package of white roving or black roving, and then a package of whatever color you want the outside to be, so that you can use the other color to be the core at the middle of your pumpkin, and then you can wrap it in the color that you want it to be. But so that is needle felting. I hope that you have fun stabbing things to make adorable pumpkins, and I will see y'all with another Arty party very soon. Thanks for tuning in. I want to see what you've made. Please come find the Marietta Cobb Museum of Art on Facebook and Instagram and show me your pumpkins or other things that you have made with needle felting. Thank you so much, and I'll see y'all again soon.